Hello! As we've talked about before, 9CI is often involved in the development of new products. And new products means prototyping. So in the workshop here, what's really cool about what we can do, there are tools and machines here to basically build anything at a prototype stage. We sometimes have to solve problems in order to see how a potential future product will work by modifying existing available off-the-shelf parts. So just as an example, for example, this is a portion of an enclosure for a product that we're developing, and we have to modify a handful of cases, and to get that done consistently, it's like, well, okay, I could take a file or a drill and do the same thing multiple times, and then take a micrometer or a set of calipers and actually measure the changes. Or if there's enough of them to do, is to make a little jig to modify things. So in this case, there's two things that have to be modified for this off-the-shelf component enclosure. We need to take a little bit off the material on this little clip, and again, it can be done with a file, but if we have enough of them to do, it then becomes worthwhile to make a temporary jig. So this is the ultimate of the temporary jig. Don't laugh, but if we go down with the camera here, I've taken an old drill that I have. Now this is a drill that doesn't have a battery pack in it, but I use it as a low torque drill when I'm drilling soft plastics or soft wood. A drill that doesn't have too much power is actually pretty safe to use because it stops fairly easily, and can't do too much damage if something slips. So this drill, believe it or not, is I think probably 20 years old, and it just is used for so many purposes. So in this case, I've got just above where the drill chuck key is, I've got a mounting hole there, and then where the battery pack is, this drill is being powered by DC 5 volts DC, but I've got a screw, and then there's a support there. So basically I'm holding this drill in a rigid, perfectly rigid position, almost like, a little, from a side perspective, it looks like a miniature lathe. Yes, is this very professional? No, it's temporary, but the idea is that it holds this rotating drill, which holds this rotating cutting bit in a certain position. Okay, so I said that we have to take off a certain little sliver off of here, right? So what happens is, now again, some people might get alarmed that my hands are so close, but this drill is not speeding at rotating at a high RPM, sharp cutting bit, but not, I don't think it's too dangerous. So what I did here was just take a piece of angle aluminum and another bracket, and I just bent it down so that I would have consistent, so that what happens is I know the angle here, and then when the drill goes, I just push down in this area, and I can use this tool if I wanted to, and then it can only go so far. So when I start the drill going, I just push this down, and there it is. And so you probably won't be able to tell, but it's shaved off the exact amount that I want here, and it's consistent. So I can just take this in and do this. And again, is it professional? Is it something that you would use for tens of thousands of units? No, but it's just a way to solve a problem and help some time. So that's the one jig. So the next problem we had to solve for our prototypes was we just needed to reduce the height of these tabs just a little bit, right? So it's like, okay, so before what I was taking was a large file and just filing it down, but I needed it to be fairly consistent. So I've taken a big block of wood, what is this, a 12 by 2, something like that, and I've put some 1/4 inch 20 bolts through, and then some thicker aluminum angle bracket, and made it so that I can adjust the heights of this precisely. And then if we take a very large and sharp file This is actually a file that's used for trimming horses' hooves, but it's a very, very quality file. This one's actually Mustad, made in Austria, and it's very flat. Actually, if I take a caliper and I measure the height of this thing once it's sitting in position, it's very consistent. It's sitting on the wood. Anyway, so carefully with with calipers, I adjusted the height so that basically all I have to do is put this thing here and then just file back and forth a few times, and I'm just shaving off, I think, what was it? Now, it's funny, I can't even remember how much I'm shaving off. It's under 1 millimeter anyway. And it just shaves it off very consistently. And I put some plastic door trim wedged on here, just so that the plastic slides really freely on top of the aluminum. So again, is it something that you would do for large manufacturing? No. I mean, at that point you would have machines do this. But if there is a handful of these things, 20, 30, or maybe 50, then it becomes worthwhile to build your own basic jig.